Hello and welcome to Amy's Opinions. I'm here with my daughter Maggie, my friend Cornelius. Today we are going to be talking about immigration because that's a hot topic in the news. Again, I pre-record these so this is shortly after Donald Trump's taken office and he's cracking down on immigration laws and all this other stuff. So we're just going to talk a little bit about immigration. Now, my dad technically was an immigrant. He came from Canada. He served for the U.S. military in Vietnam, and he did not get his citizenship until I was 4. So I guess I can have dual citizenship if I wanted to apply for that. I don't know why I want to pay taxes in 2 countries, but that's not for me. And people are all up in arms because they're looking at the news stories where people are being deported. So I want to talk a little bit about that. A lot of cases for people being deported, if they're here illegally, they're already breaking our laws. There's certain ways of coming in. You can get a green card after you've been here 5 years, unless you're military. You can apply for naturalization or citizenship, and there's different ways of doing that. You might get denied a green card if, say, you came here on a fiancé visa and you broke up with that person and tried to marry someone else. That's a way of getting denied. Or if you have mental illness or you're a criminal or you have a communicable disease that's not been treated, you might be denied until that's taken care of. So my thoughts on this is, we have a lot of people in the media coming out, oh my God, it's so horrible. They're deporting people. Well, they're already here in our country illegally and they're breaking the rules. There's ways of coming in that's correct. A lot of the people that were in the news that were being deported are part of the Venezuela, the gangs that have taken over certain apartment complexes, criminals that have already been arrested. And hey, we found out they're here illegally. Let's ship them back. There's certain things that as an American citizen, you have to realize what's right and what's wrong. Maggie, your thoughts?
Yeah, definitely. If you came here illegally, you're already breaking the law. But if you're also going out and breaking more laws here and even killing our actual citizens, then you need to be sent back to your home country and go through the due process there. I don't think it's right that American citizens are up in arms in favor for the illegal immigrants who have killed actual citizens.
But let me pause right there. And Cornelius, if you want to chime in, the current United States, people came here illegally. There were already people living in the United States when European settlers came over and they decided, hey, we're going to take over. So this was already someone's nation. And we just came over and said, nope, we claim this area. This is ours now. I like it. It's mine. Pretty much. And then we made these rules that we have now. So is it wrong for us to say, hey, you like living here, so therefore you can just come here? Yes. Why, Cornelius?
So you said, is it wrong for us to say it's okay or not okay that they can live here because they like to live here? It is wrong. We can't say that you can live here because of what we have going on. So now we have the Constitution that was put in place. Of course, before all that, we simply stole some things here. We have the rule of law in place, the standard law to the Constitution. Regardless of what happened, we now have that in place. And so we have to live by that standard. That's what we have. Otherwise, we have no back.
So
A lot of people will run us over.
You're saying because we fought England and France, because there was the French-American War, and we had some fights with Mexico over territory.
But the French War happened before we fought England.
Okay, but sorry, my timeline's a little messed up, Mags. We didn't fight the native people to this country. We just imposed our rules on them.
That's right.
Is that what you see people are trying to do now when they're coming in? I mean, we have these gangs coming from Central America that are coming in and taking over whole apartment complexes. We have the drug dealers. We have the criminals that are trying to get away from theirs. Because is that what we did when we started this country?
Technically.
Okay. I'm just curious on that viewpoint because, if you think about it, I'm a very firm believer. My dad had a green card. He served for the U.S. Army in Vietnam. He went through, he got naturalized. He did what he needed to do. He paid his taxes. He did he sacrificed for this country. My grandmother, I remember when she went through and went from a green card to citizenship. And I think that if you're going to live in a country for the rest of your life, you should go ahead and become a citizen there. I mean, why hold on to the past and not live for the future? What do you think, Max?
Yeah, no, I agree with that. If you're going to come and want to live in the United States, why not become a citizen. Like, if your plan is to stay here for the rest of your life, become a citizen. Actually become part of the nation, because when you're not a citizen, it's easier for them to send you back to where you're from, the place that you were trying to escape.
Okay. What about all the welfare and healthcare and stuff that we give people who are not citizens? Where should that money come from?
Not the U.S. government.
Okay.
That should be used to help actual citizens that need it.
But who gives the money to the U.S. government?
Taxpayers.
So the taxpayer is paying for this illegal immigrant who comes to the hospital, has a whole hospital stay, lots of tests, everything gets fixed, leaves, but the taxpayers are responsible for paying that bill. Is that right? Or should we say, hey, we found out Joe Blow is from Canada. Sorry, I'm upset that Canada beat the US in the hockey game. But let's say they're from Canada. We bill the Canadian government for their care. What do you think, Cornelius?
Yeah, we should be able to deny here. If you're not a citizen, you don't reap the full benefit of being an American, right? And then you have taxpayers paying for strangers. I mean, I think it's kind of crazy.
So what if we find someone, we deport them, we found out that, hey, they've been on welfare, they've had free health care, all this other stuff. When we deport them, should we send a bill with them to their government?
Certainly.
I think we should hand them the bill to the government personally. Like, hey, if our own citizens are paying for this, you should pay them back. Plus, why, as U.S. citizens, do we have to buy insurance policies to pay for hospital stays? So we're still paying, but then an illegal immigrant, the taxpayers pay that for them.
So I'm going to stop you right there. That's more socialized medicine. That's something we can do on another podcast, because that's more like what Canada has and, other countries have. So we're not going to go down that tangent.
I should say.
I know. I get where you're coming from. Yeah, I get your point. And I agree, if you have insurance, whether you're not, if you don't have insurance, there's Medicare, Medicaid, welfare programs for U.S. citizens to use. And I think that's very much appropriate. I think if you come here on a work visa and you follow the rules to the letter and you decide, hey, this is where I want to be here. I've lived here for 5 years. I haven't been out of the United States for more than 6 months during that 5 years. I think you should go ahead. And one of the things you have to do is show that you're proficient in the English written and spoken language. Now, that's another one, because people are like, oh, I'm Hispanic or Mexican American, I'm Korean American, I'm whatever American, Russian American, and they want to hold on to their culture from their other country. But our country is a melting pot.
I think you should at least have a basic understanding of English, because while it's not the official language of the United States, because the United States doesn't have one, it is the language that a business, like, if you don't know at least basic English, it can be very hard to communicate with other people outside of your own cultural group.
So let me ask you this. If you were to say, go to Italy, and you wanted to live in Italy and tour Italy, but you're going to be there more than just like a vacation, would you say it's your responsibility to learn Italian?
I would say definitely start the process of learning Italian, so that way when you're there, you at least know a few basic phrases and ways, like if you're in trouble, of asking for help.
Okay, what about you, Cornelius? What do you think?
If you're going to visit, I don't think it's your responsibility to learn their language. It's your responsibility to, what they have their laws going on. So if someone's going to be a citizen in America, I do think they should be proficient in the English language. Otherwise, how are they supposed to be responsible and held responsible, like, as citizens when they become a citizen? Because I don't understand the law. I don't understand, all these things. So I feel like you should be proficient in the English language. Now, if you're going to vacation or just visit, it's a little different, because you're not going to be there forever. Does that make
Right.
sense?
So just so I'm clarifying, because I'm old and you guys are young. If you're living in a country and you need to learn the language that's being spoken there, and you should be proficient at it so you can communicate. So regardless if it's the United States, where the primary language is English, where there's Italy, where it's Italian, German, it's Germany, wherever you live, you should have proficiency at that language so you can communicate. We're all in agreement on that?
That's right. Yes, I agree.
Maggie, you can't be plugging a app.
Well, I mean, that's very to tell you anyway.
All right, so let's talk about coming in on a green card. Now, both my grandparents were here on a green card, and they had to have sponsorship that showed that they could work. They had to have a background check to show that they had no criminal activities, a wellness check to make sure they had no communicable diseases. So they did all that, and they came over here from Canada, which doesn't sound like you'd immigrate from, but they did come from Canada because my grandfather had lung issues due to working in the coal mines and couldn't work in the coal mines anymore. So the majority of their children are raised in the United States. Now, to become a U.S. citizen, you have to be 18. To get a green card, you have to have a child who's 21 in order to have that green card, or you have to be married to a U.S. citizen, or there's certain requirements for that green card. You have to be here on a work visa, different things. Do you think people want to skip that step and just forego it? Because I know in my family, the people that were born in the United States were United States citizens, but the people who were born in Canada had green cards, and they had to either become naturalized citizens or they kept their green card because they actually all married United States citizens. What are your thoughts on that, on being born in the U.S.? Because remember when we lived in Arizona and we would have people, you hear us talk that people would just cross the border to have a baby so that way they could stay with their baby because their baby would be a U.S. citizen. Do you think that's appropriate?
I think in that case, so long as one parent is a citizen of the U.S., then the child can have U.S. citizenship. I don't agree that you have to be born to be a U.S. citizen. The only reason why that was written into the Constitution was so that way when slavery ended and slaves were freed, they were granted citizenship because they were born in the United States. They weren't imported from Africa.
Okay. What about you, Cornelius? What do you think?
I think I agree with Maggie. One parent at least been a citizen. Otherwise, I feel like it's kind of beating the system, and it doesn't make you a responsible citizen just because your child was born in America and then you become a citizen. The child becomes a citizen. It doesn't make the parent a responsible citizen because they don't meet the requirements of an American citizen, right? So I don't think it's a good idea unless it's already one parent that is a United States citizen.
So if both parents are not citizens, then that baby needs to go to that country with their parents when they get deported, instead of allowing those parents to get green cards to raise their child in the United States. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
If one parent's a citizen, then we should allow the mom to get a green card to be there with her spouse and have the baby and raise the baby in the United States.
Yeah.
Just depends on.
Well, if the woman's having the baby, I would assume.
If the woman's the citizen, but
Okay.
it's not.
Okay, I see where you're coming from. I got you now. I'm tracking. All right. So what about, again, what about reporting people who are illegal immigrants? Whose responsibility do you think that is?
I think it's mandatory reporters or something like that. Is it? I don't know.
Well, like Cornelius is a nurse. I'm a nurse. We're both mandatory reporters. I'm not going to report a patient.
Yeah.
Because that's going against their health care. Because, we protect healthcare rights. That's again, they're illegal and they're not a U.S. citizen, and maybe those healthcare rights shouldn't apply to them. But for my practice, I wouldn't report someone as being illegal. I really wouldn't. But that's not my rule as mandatory. If they're being abused, that's one thing, because that faces health. I think anyone that gets any sort of welfare, anyone that gets any sort of government assistance, that the government should verify those people are U.S. citizens. If you do not have a social security number and you're not paying social security tax, or you don't elect not to pay social security, because you can do that. Tricky, but you can do that. I think it's up to the government to say, hey, look at this person. They want us to give them money, but we haven't verified whether or not they're a citizen. And that's when I think they should go. When people get arrested for crimes, because I told you years ago, I used to work in a jail. When they got arrested for crimes, if they were not U.S. citizens, we deported them from jail. And they went straight back to the country they were from. And I think that's who should be monitoring the citizenship. I don't think it should be me. I don't think it should be you, because then we're going to get paranoid.
Yeah.
And that's when we start judging people based on the way they look, based on their accents. That's not, I think, appropriate. My grandmother had a very strong accent. She called everyone mom. She couldn't pronounce Tuesday. And I learned that accent and those words from her. So would you think I'm not a citizen because I say Tuesday weird?
No, because I've met people who are from the South who say it like you.
Okay. What do you think, Cornelius? Who do you think should be responsible for checking U.S. citizenship?
Definitely not healthcare. Definitely not. Yeah. But I don't think it should get to the part of where someone has to be arrested and then we realize, oh, this person is not a citizen. It shouldn't get that far. I think it goes back to, sources such as Medicare, financial aid, all these things. I think those processes should have like some verification in place, like you said. They shouldn't have to get arrested for us to recognize, oh, they're not a citizen.
No, well, I'm thinking about every single job I've had to perform, or not perform, provide identification by
Yes.
certificate, a social security card, and then another form of ID to show that we're a citizen. So if you're working above table, because there are people who work under the table. In fact, we know someone who did that for years. But then I think that would be that jobs requirement business to say, hey, phone call to ICE. I have someone who's trying to be here and I think they're here illegally. They don't have those IDs that we need to verify they're a citizen. I think that would be more than appropriate. That and financial assistance, food stamps, government funded healthcare. I think all those background checks should be in place. And definitely if they get arrested and they're not a citizen, out they go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's my personal view.
Yeah.
Again, that's just opinions. You don't have to agree, but it's just my opinion.
And I think, because one thing I'm seeing now is that those other countries' governments are trying to refuse to take the deported illegal immigrants back. Like, they're trying to say, oh no, you can't bring them back.
Right, because they're criminals. They don't want criminals in there. They're trying to get rid of the criminals and pass them on to someone else.
We don't want them either. Respectfully.
They tried to do that to Trump. There was a case where they were, oh no, we're not going to accept this plane. Trump got on the phone with that president or leader of that country, and all of a sudden, hey, we're taking them back. Send them quickly. We're not going to mess with Trump. So regardless of what you think of that president, leaders seem to kind of not want to tangle with him too much. And on this instance, I think it's great. And when you look at Democrats versus Republicans in the last 20 years, Bill Clinton had the highest deportation rate, and he was a Democrat out of all the presidents. If you look at the numbers, he actually deported more illegal immigrants than any other U.S. president, which is kind of weird if you think about it. All right, what about this? Trump has an idea that rich people can pay $5 million, get a gold card, and come live in the United States and run their businesses. Do you think that's fair?
No.
Cornelius, you're shaking your head.
No, it's not fair. I get the idea. It's a great idea because it gives us money, but does it make them responsible citizens? Are they able to follow their, be a citizen and follow their duties as a citizen? I don't know. So I don't think it's fair, but I think it's smart for the business side.
Now, see, I think we need to have the same standard regardless whether you're rich or poor, because that's what this country was founded on. But again, that's just me. I think the gold card that will fast track that process. No. If you're going to come here, you need to come here legally. You need to follow the same rules everyone else has. I'm not going to other countries and saying, woohoo, hey, free stuff. But then I don't want to go to other countries. I like where I'm at. I have my family's here. I like where I'm at. But that's just me. You guys have any other opinions on this before we close out this episode? Trying to think.
Yeah.
I do.
All right. So in conclusion, we all agree if you're going to be in the United States, you need to be here legally, whether it's a green card, work visa, or naturalization. We all agree that the majority of the language spoken is English, so you should have some proficiency in the written and verbal language that the majority of language is. We also agree that there should be some sort of a check for illegal immigrants before jail, but not healthcare. We're going to stop. Healthcare is not a good place for us to check that because we're in the business of saving lives and treating lives. We're not in the business of reporting things unless it's abuse. But the government needs to have more oversight on these illegal aliens, which sounds weird, but the immigrants that come here that illegally, they shouldn't be getting government funded stuff that the taxpayers are paying for.
Right.
That's not the business we're in. All right. Well, thank you for this episode of Amy's Opinion. I'm going to end this one, and this will air sometime in April. Thank you. Bye.